Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their industry insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have James Robbins, leadership expert, business strategist, author of the best-selling book 9 Minutes on Monday, and has 20 years of experience, help leaders grow their businesses, develop thriving teams, and navigate personal growth. He's also a sought-after speaker and consultant. Welcome to the show, James.
Thanks, AJ. Great to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, James. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We'll learn from you about how one can build high-performance teams. In this backdrop, we'll have our conversation. But before that, let's understand a bit about your background, James, a bit about your journey, how you have grown from, as you call yourself, a shy, introverted farm kid, going on to speak to audiences around the world.
Yeah, AJ, I live in the USA right now, but I grew up in Canada, and I grew up on a small farm. And actually, you're in India right now. I don't know what India and Canada have a problem with each other, but for some reason they do. And I don't even think I can come visit you because I couldn't get a visa. It's just crazy. Anyways, that's what politicians do. Now, I grew up on a small farm. I was just this shy, introverted kid, and eventually I became a speaker, a guy who was teaching other people how to lead, because I'd had a lot of bosses that weren't that great, and so I started teaching leadership.
Absolutely, teaching leadership. And you have also shared the stage with great leaders, Bill Clinton, Simon Sinek, and also the Canadian Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau. He is on his way out, and I'm sure with this, perhaps some relations will get mended and you will be able to visit very, very easily. Be that as it may, let's talk about what we are going to talk about, building high-performance teams. But before that, you talk about, presentations. You know about presentations. Do you think, leadership nowadays is just busy in presentations and not in actually giving authentic presentations? How do you give your own presentations, James? Why do people trust you, and why do people not trust a lot of our business leaders in today's time? Is it just they talk and do not walk the talk? What is your sense? How do you bring confidence in those teams who do not trust their leaders?
Yeah, if people don't trust their leader, it's not just because they give a speech poorly. It's all the stuff that happens every day. But when it comes to presenting, you can do a lot to build trust during a presentation. And a lot of that is just by being vulnerable, by being willing to share about some of your weaknesses, and help people see that you're a real person. And the more you do that, the more people can relate with you. And the more they relate with you, then they find something in common, and that's where trust starts, right? We have to find these affinity points. Like you and I are on different sides of the world, but if we spoke for 5 minutes, we would probably find some shared ground that we could connect. And once we did that, we would begin to trust each other a little bit more.
Absolutely. So what is your advice for such leaders? It means you go and talk to their teams. Also, you have given more than 3,000 presentations across the world. So they must be calling you for something. What is it that you talk about and they are not able to talk to their teams? Obviously, one of the reasons is to build teams, keep them motivated, give them insights into what a good team should be like, what a great team should be like, what a high-performing team should be like. Help us understand your way of giving presentations so that, especially young leaders, young, startups, people who have got great ideas, visions, but do not know how to present their thoughts, their ideas, even they are very good at heart. How would you like to tell them? What would you like to tell them?
Well, let me clarify. You want me to talk about presentations, or do you want me to clarify about building teams? I can do both.
Both.
Okay. So usually I will get a call because things are not good in a company. There's some kind of morale problem. People aren't working. People are quitting. And what happens is everybody comes to leadership the same way. Like all of us, we were working hard, we were an example, or maybe you started a company because you had an idea and eventually you need to hire more people. In other words, nobody becomes a leader because that was their goal. It just comes to you when you suddenly have people. And the challenge in business is what makes a business, what adds complexity to a business is when you add people. The tech doesn't change that much other than, it evolves, of course. The processes don't change that much, they evolve, but it's people. That's the difficult part about leading. And especially when you bring people together in a team dynamic. And so I guess the best thing I could say is when you think about building a strong team, because when a team is strong, it can do amazing things. You want to create something that we call psychological safety. So I'm not sure, AJ, have you ever been to the USA? Have you ever been to San Francisco?
Never.
Never. Okay. But you've heard of the Golden Gate Bridge. So
Right.
when they were building the Golden Gate Bridge back then, when they would have a construction project like that, a lot of people would just die because they would fall. And the guy who was going to build the bridge, his name is Joseph Strauss, he decided, hey, I don't want anyone to die. Like for the first time ever, let's prioritize safety. And so he asked the owners, hey, I want to build a net underneath the bridge while we're building it. And at first the people were like, nah, we don't want to do that. That's extra money. That's going to put us behind budget. And he said, no, we need to do this. So they said, okay, let's do it. So they built this net underneath the bridge. And while they did, they ended up finishing the bridge faster and under budget. And that was because people weren't worried about dying and they could give their full self to the job. So the same thing happens in a psychological way. Like that's physical safety. But psychological safety is if I come to my workplace and I'm worried that, AJ, you're going to yell at me, or you're going to, or the team's going to judge me, or if I tell people my idea, they're going to laugh at me, or the boss is going to yell at me in front of other people. All of those things, nobody likes that. And that is an unsafe place to be. And so what we do is we pull back. So when you want to build a strong team, you have to be like the guy that built the Golden Gate Bridge. Although the net you're creating is psychological safety. And what you want is you want your team to be able to be safe in 4 areas, right? You want it where it's safe to be myself. In other words, I don't have to hide parts of who I am. If I am a part of a certain religion, or if I like to do this as a hobby, I don't have to hide that from you because I'm accepted and respected just for who I am. So it's safe to be who I am. It is safe to learn, meaning I can make a mistake and I'm not going to get fired for it. It's safe to contribute. I can give you my ideas, but it's also safe to challenge. And so if you're my boss, AJ, and you're making it safe for me, then I've got to be able to say, hey, AJ, I know you said we should do this, but I don't know if you're correct on that. Can we talk about that again? That would be an environment where it's safe to challenge. That really is the foundation of a high-performing team. It's psychological safety.
Absolutely. So why is it that we are not able to do that? Because it's easy to do. Organizations have that wherewithal to get it done. And leadership also have that whole power within their hands. Who are leaders? Is the leadership of today afraid of the employees they have? Was that the reason that led to the great resignation and quiet quitting very much on? Help us understand these things. You talk to a lot of people, James. Why is it that there is so much of mistrust in today's time? What is the solution for today?
I think a lot of the quiet resignation happened in big companies where people didn't feel like they were cared about. So part of this comes back to teams, but if we're talking about big organizations, if an employee feels like the company doesn't care about them, that they're just a number, then what people do, what we do is then we pull our effort. Like, okay, you're not going to care about me. Well, I'm not going to care about you. and I will just begin to pull back, because inside all of us, there's sort of this like scale, like we would go to the market and measure things. And when we start to feel the scale is out of balance, like my workplace is taking advantage of me, they don't care about me, whatever it might be, then what we try to do is we balance out the scale by, okay, I'm not coming in to do overtime. Okay, I'm not coming in to work an extra shift. And we may never say that, but what we're doing is we're trying to level out the playing field inside of us. And this is where an analogy I use when I'm teaching leaders is understanding something as simple as the bank account. Leadership is deposits and withdrawals, right? There's withdrawals, which are, hey, AJ, you need to do better. Hey, AJ, how come you were late? Hey, AJ, I need you, right? Those are withdrawals. And they're not wrong, but I have to balance that with deposits. Like, hey, AJ, I just want to let you know what you did last week when you helped out Sarah and no one asked you to do that. That's the kind of team members we need. And man, that really inspired me. Thank you. Like, that's a deposit. So leaders have to be mindful of that, deposits versus withdrawals, because you need cash flow from a relationship perspective to have that influence. And another way to give a deposit is to care. And if somebody really feels like their boss cares about them, they will put up with a lot of garbage in the company. Like the company could have terrible policies and maybe they're doing stuff that's not great. But if my boss cares about me, has my back, is supporting me, then that's going to keep me longer.
Absolutely, absolutely, James. So let's look at two things in today's time. In terms of DEI, you talked about inclusion, diversity, and so that somebody is not feeling left out. The state of DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, that is not working as it was supposed to be. And the second big challenge is the artificial intelligence that is coming in. How do people, the leaders of today, remove that fear about AI? That you get AI into the system, but that is to improve the team culture, team performance, rather than replacing you with that. How would you like to put it, that leaders put it in best manner possible about inclusive culture in an organization, and also about alleviating all these fears about artificial intelligence going forward? These are two things, especially the AI part, which looks to be challenging in the coming days. How would you like to talk about performance here? Because people will think, when this guy, the leader, is talking about performance and high performance, he seems to be talking about why I'm hearing about that he is wanting to replace me. Help us about that part of leadership.
Yeah, AI is definitely coming like a tsunami, and I think it's going to catch a lot of people by surprise. But at the same time, this is why I think you should know a little bit about AI, regardless of where you are. We're actually teaching a 5-week series on this called the AI Manager, starting in just a couple of weeks, to teach managers, hey, here's how you use AI to better coach your staff, to better make decisions, right? Like, use that as a tool. And the AI that we have now is going to be different than the AI a year from now. So, but you want to continue to learn it. I do think some of the bigger companies, of course, they are going to exploit AI in all the ways they can, and they are going to cut costs and try to make more money. And it reminds, AJ, one time I had to go give a speech in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So Hershey is a small city in America, and it's named after the guy who started Hershey chocolate. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of Hershey chocolate.
Yes, I have.
So his name's Milton Hershey, and the guy was amazing. And this was back in like the 1920s. And one time he showed up to the job site. They were building a bunch of houses for his employees. And he showed up at the construction site, and somebody had bought a steam shovel. And so back then, a steam shovel, like, that was AI to us. I mean, it was just this. And he walks up and he's like, what is this? And the foreman, he said, this is a steam shovel. It can do the work of 20 men. And he said, get rid of it and hire 20 men. But that was Milton Hershey. And that's not what we're going to see with CEOs, definitely in big companies across the world. And it's not that they're bad people. It's just that's the competitive world we live in. And shareholders want profit. And, they don't want Milton Hershey as their CEO. They want the person who's going to give them the best return on their money. So, yeah, for sure. I think are some people going to get caught off guard by AI? For sure. That's why you want to know what's going on. And as a leader, yeah, how can you use AI and how can you even prepare your staff? I just had a conversation this morning to our staff about it and saying, hey, all of us need to get better at AI. We need to learn this. You need to know what's coming. On the note about diversity and inclusion that you brought up. So in the USA, you probably have heard, the DEI has really become a controversial thing. And I think how DEI started was, I think it had good intentions, but it was probably started incorrectly in the way that they tried to roll it out. But regardless of what your company thinks about DEI, I just think as a human being, this is my opinion, as a human being, that I just believe all people are equal, right? It doesn't matter what color your skin is or what disability you have. Inside all of us, there's an innate value. And so as a leader, you want to treat people like that. And of course, when it comes to building psychologically safe teams, you have to be a little bit like a parent in this area, even if you're not the oldest there. And what I mean by parent is that you have to be really vigilant on anything that smells of disrespect, because you can't have that. So let's say somebody on your team is Jewish and they mentioned that they celebrated Hanukkah with their family. They're just telling a story and someone makes a weird, a facial expression from that. You can't let that go. You have to go talk to that employee after and just say, hey, I don't know what you feel about that, but when you're in here, you feel nothing about it because we all just support each other, right? We are a team. And so it's in the workplace, the team has to triumph everything. Like it has to transcend politics, religion, ideology, or else you're going to have a fractured team.
Absolutely. So one thing, let me ask you from your own life itself, growing up in a cattle ranch, you have seen the world. The way you drive cattle, you herd cattle, that's a different way. But you have learned the ways in a much more broader way. And leaders of today, many of them coming from great places, great institutes, they seem to be leading like they are leading a herd of cattle, which is not going to work. What is it that you have learned in a cattle ranch, and what is it that these people have not learned about human behavior, human mindset, learning from great institutions and great places? Do they need to go back to the cattle ranch and learn about people rather than the other way? Why? What have you learned, and what is it that they have not learned? I want to understand, because you talk to these people. What is it that where do they have to go and learn about empathy? Where do they have to learn about that the people are not a herd of cattle, that they are very individual, and that they will be the one who can really perform great if you give them and treat them like humans?
What I learned growing up on a cattle ranch is that I learned about the simplicity of life. Do not complicate it. Herding cattle now is the same as herding cattle 1,000 years ago. You don't complicate it. And obviously, human beings are more complex than cattle, but leadership doesn't have to be complicated. Leadership isn't easy, but it's not complicated because it's about people, right? It's about moving people. And AJ, in my workshops, I will ask this question. I will ask people, think about someone who was a good leader in your life, like somebody who really impacted you, inspired you, brought the best out of you. And then I said, once you think of their name, now tell me, what was it about them that impacted you so much? So the group will start sharing. If we're online, they'll start typing it in the chat. And all these answers come in. And then I tell the group, What do you notice about the answers? And if you look at the answers, maybe 15% of them have something to do with a skill. Everything else is who you are. And you don't need an MBA for that. You don't need to go to a 4-year college for that. You don't even, in a sense, you don't even need to go for leadership training. Most of that your grandmother probably already taught you. There are 4 main things that people tell me when we go through that list, and here they are. And if you're a leader, you want to remember these, because this is from hundreds and hundreds of people telling me this. Number 1, that the leader was some sort of an example to them, right? They worked hard, they were willing to do whatever, and they didn't ask people to do something that they weren't willing to do. They were an example. Secondly, they cared about me. This boss cared about me, so I will run through a brick wall for that person, because we're relational creatures, and there's that concept of reciprocity. So when somebody does something nice for us, we want to do something nice back. At least most human beings do. So when our boss cares about us, we want to work harder. We don't want to let them down. So they set an example. They cared about me. Thirdly, they challenged me. Nobody wants to work for a boss that doesn't push them. Now, at the same time, when we're being pushed, we don't like it. So that's kind of the dichotomy there, right? When we're pushed, we don't like it. But then when we grow, we like it. And so somebody who challenges me, but then the 4th piece, they supported me, right? They didn't just leave me out to dry. They supported me. And there's a 5th one that comes up. They trusted and believed in me. So imagine for a moment that we are going to apply that to cattle herding, or of any animal, right? I'm going to lead the way of where we're going. I'm going to care about you. Like, this is in your best interest. I'm trying to get you to better grasp. I'm going to push you for sure. We got to go a little faster. And I'm going to support you, though. If something's wrong, I'm going to make sure I'm going to help you out. And at the end of the day, I'm going to believe in you. Well, those are going to be loyal cattle, AJ. They're going to follow you all the way home.
Absolutely, James. Let's talk about one more thing, and then I'll come to the books that we have written. One is the purpose part. If I am giving my best, if I am giving the best performance for my team, I also want to be assured that I'm also living my purpose. People want that purpose in their life. If not today, they will realize about it. And this is one big challenge that is coming up. How should leaders ensure that their high performance teams are also individuals making that team, that I should also take care of what their purpose is, where is it that they want to go? I am able to include that purpose in whatever way possible. At least I should know about it. What is the best way leaders can achieve this part of their high performing teams?
There's a couple of things. First of all, I'm glad you brought up this concept of purpose. And it's important for leaders to link purpose to paycheck for people. Because what happens is everybody gets doing tasks, editing video, posting graphics, calling customers, resetting a password, whatever it might be. We all just get in, we're checking boxes all day long. But what needs to happen is, from time to time, we have to touch back with, why am I doing this? Why is this important? And so for those of you who are leaders, for those of you who are business owners and you're listening to this, I want you to think about this. This is so important. From time to time, you have to find a way to help your people feel like what you're doing is important as a company, but also for them individually. So this is how I do it in our company. I'm the one who's out on the road. I'm the one with the client. I'm also the one who hears the client say, wow, that was the best event we've ever had. Wow, you've really helped our leaders grow. So that's nice for me to hear that. But I have to take that back to our staff and say, hey, just so you know, this is what so-and-so said. And it's not about me, it's about us. Here's what we're doing as a company. We're helping leaders get better, which that makes other people's lives get better. And when I forget to do that, I'm stealing some motivation away from my people. So that's one thing. And about the purpose, I think that every leader should know should ask a few questions of their staff. They should know a few things. Like, I want to know what your career goals are. So AJ, let's say you're working for our company. AJ, I want to know what are your career goals in life? I want to know what are your financial goals in life, and just what are your personal goals? I want to know those three things. And the reason is, number one, because I just want to be interested in your life. I want you to feel like you're important because you're important. Secondly, I want to tie those things to what you're doing. And so, AJ, we don't know each other, but let's say you want to start I don't know, you want to start a restaurant somewhere. Well, okay, I'm going to remember that. And then let's say I have a project for you. I'm going to say, the things that you're going to learn in this project are going to be the very same skills you're going to need when you open up that restaurant. And so I'm going to help you connect to something bigger that's important to you. So I would say that. And then the third thing I will say, and this actually has to do with my next book that's coming out in August, and that has to do with purpose. Your purpose in life is to be the most authentic and honest version of yourself and bring that person to the world. That is your gift to the world. Now, I believe that's your purpose. Now, but people think, no, but I'm supposed to do something with it. Well, yeah, there's 100 different things you can do that are going to be in line with your purpose. It's only when you start doing a job that is not aligned with that inner life, right? Whether you want to talk soul, psyche, whatever word you want to use. And then that's usually when people are unhappy at work. And regardless of what you do for them, regardless of even how you lead them, they're still going to just feel like, I think I'm in the wrong place. So the more you know your staff, the more you can help guide them, even as they're trying to figure out what they should be doing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that brings me to your book that you call, which is going to come out in August, The Call to Climb. You also have a podcast by almost the same name, Born to Climb. So, and then earlier on, you had this best-selling book, 9 Minutes on Monday. Lots of things to learn from you, James. Tell us a bit about your new book, your podcast, and also the best-selling book, 9 Minutes on Monday. What these books are all about, what this new book is all about, what can people learn from your podcast?
All right. Well, I'm going to start with the old book called 9 Minutes on Monday. So 9 Minutes on Monday is a leadership framework that is built for busy managers. So if you're busy, then you will probably find something very useful in that. So basically the concept is you learn about these engagement drivers, and then every Monday morning you take 9 minutes and you have this template that I show you in the book, and you just you answer 9 questions, and you set small micro goals as a leader, right? Who am I going to recognize? Who am I going to give feedback to? Who am I going to coach? And you make a plan for your leadership for the week. So that's 9 Minutes on Monday, and we do workshops on that all the time. The podcast is called Born to Climb. That's more a passion project, something I love to do. As you would know, AJ, it's just fun to talk to people, hear their stories. I learn so much from the people that are on the show. But the genesis behind the show is that we're all born to climb, in that we are our very best when we are going uphill, when we are in a challenge, when we have a little bit of stress. And a lot of times this is the part that we don't like I want to get out of here, but that's actually that's what brings out the best in us. So the show is about stories of people who've overcome some pretty difficult things, but also some experts to help us. How can we be more resilient, especially for us business owners, right? Running a business is not easy. That brings me lastly to the book that's coming out, The Call to Climb. So The Call to Climb is very different in that it's a fable, and it's a story about someone who wanders into a village in the foothills of the Andes Mountains in South America because their car has broken down. But when they get there, they realize that the village has been expecting them. And it turns out that this is sort of a mystical place where when somebody's life is beginning to get out of alignment with their soul, right? When they are starting to just live on autopilot and they don't really feel fulfilled, but they keep doing the same thing. Well, in this place, the mountain calls you to climb so that you might have a conversation with your soul. And the parallel there, the metaphor there is every once in a while you need to disconnect from everything and go inward and really think, am I living an intentional life, and am I living my life, or am I living someone else's life, my parents' life, or am I so concerned about what everyone thinks of me? And so the journey of the main character up this mountain, as they begin to take back their life from the programs, the patterns, the fears, and they begin to find out who they really are and how they want to live their life. So that's the book. I'm super excited about it, and it comes out in August.
Absolutely. And that brings me to ask you this question then. What is it that you seek for yourself after, growing up on a ranch and rubbing shoulders with all the high and mighty of the world? And now, what is it that you now seek for yourself after achieving so much?
What is it that I seek for myself? That's a great question. I think as I get older, what I seek maybe becomes less tangible. In other words, there's not all these things I would cut out and put on a vision board. It's, I want my kids to be happy. I want them to be successful in life. I want to be a good friend. I want to be a good son. I want to be somebody who makes a difference in the community. I want to be somebody who inspires people. All the other things, they come and go. Look in Los Angeles right now, all these houses being burned down, right? All these things are temporary, but who we are is eternal. And so I don't mean to sound all mystical with that answer, but really, as I think about it, I just, that, and I like to go and travel and explore new places. So maybe India's next on the list if we finally get rid of our prime minister.
Absolutely. Maybe India, maybe Andes, maybe anywhere. At the end of the day, we have to find ourselves. Be that as it may, there is so much to learn from you, James. And I'm sure a lot of people would want to learn from you, learn about the things that you are doing, learn from your old book, learn from your coming book, and also from your podcast. What's the best way for them to connect with you?
Thank you for asking that, AJ. They can go to jamesrobbins.com, two B's in Robbins, jamesrobbins.com. I should be easy to find online, and you can find me out there. And our podcast, you'll find it there as well, called Born to Climb. And look forward to seeing you there.
Wonderful. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KAJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for joining us.